علی امام من است و منم غلام علی هدال جان گرامی کیا بات ہے فیرا بناؤ میں علی من کل تو مولا من کل تو مولا مولا من کل تو مولا آہ مولا من کل تو مولا من کل تو مولا من کل آہ من کل تو مولا.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the books in my library, and the reason I'm doing this video is because a lot of times with some friends I've been talking to, or if I've been featured on any kind of online shows with other people, they see the background and they see my books, and so a lot of people have asked me about my library and requested me to maybe talk about it a little bit, so I'm just going to do that today. I have a very large collection of books. We can sort of give a expanse there of books scattered around in my main library room. I actually don't have enough books to fit them into this room. This is only about, I don't know, I'd say this is about 400 square feet, but and of course the space in the middle is empty. You know, got all the books on the walls, but I have books in all the other rooms. I have some books in storage. And I just mainly have a lot of the books which I need for my research. And a lot of them are reference works, like what's, for example, if we come over here, oftentimes this is where I sit, so if I'm on Skype or something with someone, this is what they see. So this is the Jawahir al-Kalam, which is a huge encyclopedia of Islamic law. And it's actually a massive commentary on the book Sharjah al-Islam by al-Muhaqqiq al-Hilli in 12 Shi'i law. So I have a lot of my law books here. For example, here's an introduction to Shi'i law by Professor Hussein Mudarrisi. I studied with him at Princeton. Took a lot of classes with him. This is the Wasail al-Shīʿah, which is a huge collection of Shi'i hadith in, should be 30 volumes, yeah. And then there's the Mustadrak al-Wasail, which contains further hadiths on that. Then there's al-Urwat al-Wuthqa. Mustamsik al-Urwat al-Wuthqa is the commentary on it. There's al-Lum'a al-Dimashqiyya. So basically books on Shi'i law. Then I have various books on hadith here. Shi'i hadith. I have all my Sunni hadith in another shelf in another part of the house. So I've got Al-Kafi, I have Man La Yahdur al-Faqih, all these famous books of Shi'i hadith. And I have even the famous Bihar al-Anwar. This edition is a smaller font edition, so it's all within 25 volumes. Otherwise, it's 110 volumes in the standard edition. This is my nunchaku, of course, in case I'm attacked by anyone. I have quite a good collection of martial arts weapons as well, but anyhow, that's neither here nor there. Got some Nahj al-Balagha stuff here. The famous book of the sermons and correspondence of Imam Ali. This section is all books on the Fada'il, or the merits of the Ahl al-Bayt, different kinds of books. Of course, most of the books are in Arabic. There's some tafsir here. This is Tafsir al-Mizan by al-Allama Tabatabai. I have different reference works on the Quran, different translations of the Quran, English translations. These are Persian translation, Persian, English. That's Urdu, English. This is, of course, the famous Quran, what do you call them in English? Concordance, Al-Mu'jam al-Mufahris by Muhammad Fuad Abdul Baqi. This is a lexicon of the Quran by Mustafawi. I have different lexicons here like Lisan al-Arab, Al-Qamus al-Muhit. I quite like lexicons and dictionaries. In fact, I have a huge collection of them. I have the whole OED in 20 volumes. I have Lane's Lexicon.
Do you want to show that?
Oh, if you like. They're all on the floor here. You're going to have to get down and...
Yeah.
So we've got the OED. We have the Muhazzab al-Lughat, which is an Urdu lexicon, Encyclopedia of Philosophy. The Oxford Greek English lexicon, Oxford Latin English lexicon. I have a Syriac Latin dictionary. I have Ethiopic Latin. I have Coptic. Muhazzab al-Lughat in Urdu. So no, I don't have the Lughatnama of Dekhuda in Persian. I wish I did. If I ever get a chance, I'll definitely buy that. I have a lot of different books on philosophy. That's my main interest for the last several years. A lot of these are books which I've edited or friends of mine have edited or at the Shīʿah Institute in London. I'm very interested in Islamic manuscripts, so I have a lot of the issues of the Journal of Islamic Manuscripts. Oh, that's my first book which I wrote. It's my Ph.D. dissertation, Fatwas of Condemnation. This is my Aristotle shelf. I have a lot of books on Aristotle. So I've got the complete works of Aristotle. I have the Metaphysics of Aristotle, Greek. This is the Greek critical edition, also by Yazdī, I think, yeah. Yes. Jaeger's critical edition, and there's the critical edition of Metaphysics by Ross, which is in 2 volumes. We've got our Plato here. So a lot of books on ancient world, assorted Loeb. I have a lot of these Loeb Classical Library editions spread around the house. What's this? Greek mathematical works, Julian, the so-called apostate. Boethius, classic, Consolation of Philosophy. These are on astrology. Another one of my interests is ancient divination, particularly astrology, geomancy. Got a lot of Ibn Sina here. You know, different editions of the Isharat, commentaries on the Isharat. And some of this is kind of random and unorganized, but what can you do? When you don't have enough room, sometimes you just bring up stuff that you're working on and it just gets mixed in. These are books over here mainly on Muhyiddin ibn al-Arabi, a very famous and important figure in the history of Sufism who I've done work on. This is a critical edition of the Fusus al-Hikam, which I brought out in 2015. So these are all the different common...
Where can people get that?
Well, if they want to get it, they have to contact me on my Facebook or something. Or so these are the commentaries on the Bezels of Wisdom of the Fusus al-Hikam by Ibn Arabi, and this is one of the main ones by al-Qaysari. And these are all of the bookmarks for the quotations which I have from this in my critical edition. And of course we have a lot of Mullah Sadra here, Sadruddin Muhammad al-Shirazi, al-Hikmat al-Muta'aliya, 2 different editions there. We have some other stuff on Mullah Sadra here, various works, al-Shawahid al-Rububiyya, his commentary on Usul al-Kafi, his commentary on the Quran. We've got the Tajreed al-I'tiqad, which I translated into English. That's a commentary, the Kashf al-Murad, different commentaries on this important work of Shi'i theology. And of course, here's one of the volumes from the Kitab al-Shifa, the Ilahiyat. Nasiruddin Tusi is another person I like quite a bit. This is a copy of his Akhlaq al-Nasiri in Persian. This is a very nice old lithograph published in India at the Munshi Nawal Kishore Press in Lucknow. And it's hard to get a lot of those editions now. And this is the modern Iranian edition. I also quite like Egyptology. There's The Mind of Egypt and The Search for God in Ancient Egypt by a very famous German Egyptologist with a rather unfortunate name, I suppose. I actually met him once. He came to AUC, but it was during the Arab Spring, and he was giving this lecture, and then all these protests started, and we were told to evacuate the building, and so it never went anywhere. Mathematics, another very important area of interest of mine. So I have this classic work on complex analysis. There's visual complex analysis. This is a very good book. If you're interested, you should order one immediately off of Amazon. This is a pretty weird book on magic squares. So one of my other areas of interest is the Islamic occult sciences, and this is by some guy named Nineveh Shadrach. But what he did was he took a manuscript, which is actually in Princeton University Library. That's a page of it. And it's how to construct the most complicated magic square in Islamic occultism, which is 100 by 100 squares, called Al-Wifq al-Mi'ani. I have a lot of Judaica also. I'm very interested in Jewish subjects, the Jewish tradition, legal tradition, Kabbalah, and so forth. So I have a lot of Jewish and biblical stuff here. I have the whole Encyclopedia Judaica down there. And I've got a lot of critical editions of the Bible. So I've got the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia here. Very important. I've got the concordance, the Concordancia Hadasha by Ibn Shoshan for the Hebrew Bible. Here's the five, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, with the commentary of Rashi. This is actually the Pentateuch in Arabic, Judeo-Arabic, with the translation of a guy named Saiyad Gaon, and this is the same thing in Arabic script. Got some Maimonides here, Maimonides Mishneh Torah. So that's important codification of Jewish law by Maimonides. Other very important book of Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch. So these are old editions. This is pretty cool. A lot of people. This is a dictionary of the Bible. Of course, it's in German by Georg Benedict Wiener. It's a very nice book. Very, very nice reference work. Very useful. I have a very long-standing interest in the Psalms. So this is, for example, Saad al-Fayoumi or Saadi Gaon's translation of the Psalms into Judeo-Arabic. This is, very old book. What's it say there?
It says 1903. Let me show that.
That's a 1903.
Where did you buy this?
From some used book dealers, online. This is published in 1857. This is the first book ever written on comparative Semitic, Semitic languages, Semitische Sprachwissenschaft in German. It's called the Risala by Yehuda ben Koresh. It's published in 1857. So some of these are pretty old. This is probably my oldest book. I'm not making this up. This is published in 1653. It's a very early study of the Psalms. It's in Latin. And it also has actually in the appendix, it's got another book bound in here about how, it's a summary of biblical Hebrew. But it's, it's in Latin, the principles of biblical Hebrew, but it's in Latin. Actually, is this Hebrew or is this Aramaic? Because it says Chaldean here in Latin, Lingua Chaldaicae. Anyhow, it's called the Lyre of David. Lyre being like a harp. And I think you can show the Roman numerals here. The Roman numerals here in red.
Yeah.
And that, of course, and the bookseller wrote 1653 here. I even have an English translation of this called the Lyre of David that came out, I don't know when. Let's see. It's been a while since I've looked at these. They're really bad. This was published in Dublin. Oh gosh, that's also in Roman numerals. We'll have to figure that one out. So yeah, I've got a lot of these old sorts of books. I have a lot of weird stuff on Egyptology. Like this is a really nice box set, The Temple of Man by Schwaller de Lubisch. It's a lot of stuff on sacred geometry.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So with these Islamic texts, I'm not too informed on what they actually are, but do you have any kind of way of organizing them?
Well, these are obviously organized according to, aspects of, Islamic law and so forth, but this is a pretty random collection of stuff. I mean, I just don't have enough room to organize everything properly. Like, this is all pretty random. Like, for example, this is a shelf on, different aspects of Christianity. Then we've got a bunch of books right here. I mean, there's no relation on mathematics, and I don't know, of course, the Mantle of the Prophet that has nothing to do with this. This is actually autographed, by the way.
Let's see.
It's the classic book by Roy Mutahada. Yep. Just Sayyid Nizamuddin Ahmad in appreciation of his interest in this book, Roy Parviz Mutahada. He signed this when he came to Princeton in the 1990s. Otherwise, I think this book came out in 1986. It's pretty much based on the life of one of the professors at Princeton I took classes with, Sayyid Hussein Mudarrisi, who was my advisor for a number of years, and then, that's another story. We've got Ptolemy, Greek mathematics, Euclid.
Try and move these so we can show.
Oh, yeah? I don't know what Wilfred Thesiger is doing in there. He was quite a strange fellow. Interesting explorer of Arabia in modern times. And like I said, sacred geometry. These are classic works on sacred geometry. Judaica. We have our so-called traditionalist and perennialist shelf here. We've got some Fritjof Schuon, Kumaraswamy. We've got all of Genon.
Every single one of
I
his
think
works.
this is all of Genon, yeah.
Wow.
René Guénon. And we've got some Julius Evola here, whatever's available in English. Of course, we don't subscribe to some of his more extreme views. But he's a very interesting figure, one of the most interesting figures in the 20th century.
I see this book lying around here a lot. I'm not sure what it is. Do you want to explain it?
Jacques Ellul, he was a sociologist, French. He was part of the French resistance. He saved many Jews from the Holocaust. He's known for his criticism of his critique, really, of technology, and he was very concerned about technology and the dehumanization of man. And those are like two famous books of his. And I mean, if you're on that topic, there's another one like Lewis Mumford. This is The Pentagon of Power. He was also very interested in issues of this kind. I have a lot of books on logic here. So, a lot of stuff on logic.
Do you care to explain this book right here and the author?
Yeah, Mortimer J. Adler. I'm a big fan of Mortimer J. Adler. I have his Aristotle for Everybody and a lot of his other books like 10 Philosophical Mistakes, 6 Great Ideas. I think he was really a fascinating figure in that he thought that philosophy was everybody's business, and he did a lot to get people interested in philosophy, and he was, of course, associated with the great books. And the great books, which were published by, when it first came out, I think it was
Mortimer J. Adler, Robert Hutchinson, and there was...
Oh,
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, so they brought out this multi-volume set of great books through the Encyclopedia Britannica company, and he was associated with the University of Chicago, and then later, of course, he was involved with St. John's College in Annapolis, and of course, they have another campus in
Santa Fe,
New Mexico. So yes, I'm a big fan of the writings of Adler. He was quite, quite talented in expressing philosophical ideas in a very simple language, especially Aristotle. Aristotle, if you ever try to read him, he's not an easy read. The writings are in a mess.
Yeah.
Maybe they were just his notes. And so that book, Aristotle for Everybody, is something I recommend to anyone who's interested in philosophy. In fact, my students in Islamic philosophy, I tell them, look, if you want to understand Ibn Sina and Mullah Sadr and all that, you really need to understand Aristotle. And the easiest way to get an understanding of Aristotle in, like a weekend is to read Adler's.
Yeah, I have read the whole book.
You've read the whole book,
It really helped.
It's a very good book, yeah. So, yeah, this is a lot of these books we've got here. Yeah, this is a mix of stuff from ancient thought. We've got Plotinus, we've got some Stoics here, we've got Marcus Aurelius, and we've got Cicero, of course, and other weird things. Like, here's a book on the calendar of the Roman Republic. I'm very interested in calendars, and I have a book on, one of the most important books on calendars actually was written by Al-Biruni, and it's called Al-Athar al-Baqiya an al-Qurun al-Khaliya. And I think there's an English translation by Edward Sachau. Oh, here's Seneca on benefits. Yes, well, as I said, Stoics. So yeah, I have a lot of books on calendars. So I'm very interested in calendars and calendrical system because that's, of course, linked with astronomy and astrology. So we have some, serious books on astronomy, celestial mechanics, physics. It's all mixed in. Oh, this is a great bookshop in Beirut if you ever go there. bookmark from a bookshop in Beirut. So yeah, it's all a mix. Oh, here's Epictetus. This is a new translation of Epictetus. Very nice. These are coming out by Princeton University Press is bringing out these, and it's got the original Greek. Should one ever learn it, it's on my list of things to do. Yeah, I can show some of these other strange books in my collection. Like I said, when you're reading, your stuff just get, if someone has a very neat and tidy library, it means they don't use it. Yeah, so I've been reading up on modern nihilism and existentialism. So we've got this nice book here. Geomancy is another area of interest of mine, along with astrology. So we've got our books of occult philosophy. This is a very nice book in my collection. I mentioned this Hindu book publisher in Lucknow, India, named Munshi Nawal Kishore. He actually brought out a giant copy of the Quran. This is a lithograph. And these are very hard to find. I came across this from a bookseller in Lucknow. Mazhar, what's his name? Mazhar Alam bookseller, I think. And let me find the first volume. I think it has a very nice color page. Yeah. Look at that. So I purchased this book. It's been quite a few years now. I think it was almost, almost 20 years ago. And I had it restored. As you can see, it's in bad shape on the sides here, but it was fixed. And it's quite nice. And so what we have here is the Arabic text of the Quran. And then in interlinear translation, we've got alternating lines of Persian and Urdu. وَيَجْعَلُ الرِّجْسَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ, for example. So what is it? What does it say? Dame andazu palidi ra bar anan ke dar nami yaband. Then we should have Urdu or be aql logon par wo khabazat dal diya karta hai waghaira waghaira. So there you got it. There you have that. So this is actually spread across 3 volumes, but the odd thing is that this is not the whole Quran. So I think the original plan was, because the Quran is typically divided into 30 parts, so there should be 10, 10, and 10. But I think there's a few missing, and I'm really not sure what the reason is. The guy told me that, well, this started out as a, yeah, so it was lithographed, and then so apparently, I don't know, he says that the calligrapher, he had some problem, or he, I don't know, he got ill. For whatever reason, the whole thing, or maybe that's just what he told me because he didn't have the rest of it. I have really no idea. So you can see that this first volume is somewhat different, the beginning pages, in that it has this orange, pink, or, some kind of pale red. Oh yes, and I forgot to say, there is commentary in the margin. And this commentary is in Urdu. So Urdu, very important language in northern India. This is a very peculiar book I have. This is the second volume. There was a famous writer in Persian named Fariduddin Attar, and he wrote a book of of biographies on Muslim saints called the Tazkirah-i-Awliya in Persian. And this is actually a translation of that into Turkic, some sort of Eastern Turkish. I guess today it would be called Uyghur. But, I suppose at that time it would just have been Chagatai or something. But for whatever reason, this script is called the Uyghur script. So this is before the Turks actually adopted the Arabic script. And it's a facsimile. It's very nice. I bought this in Oxford. Back in I think 2006. There was this man named Ahmad Bullock, and he used to sell books from his house. A British convert to Islam, and I went to visit him with one of my friends, Aftab Ahmed, And he had this book, and it's just so weird. I thought, I must have it, and so I just got it. But I have no idea what it says. But you see, in different places, you've got Arabic. Like, so here it says, وَكَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطٌ ذِرَاعِهِ بِالْوَسِيطِ. And that's a reference to, what, Surah Al-Kahf. The surah of the cave in the Quran that refers to the story of the 7 sleepers and their dog, and how their dog is sitting obediently with his paws stretched out before them. So you can see that the writing actually looks like Arabic, but it's not. I think it's based on Syriac or something like this, or something like that. And there's actually a lot of manuscripts in this so-called Uyghur script. I've seen them in, they have collections of these. If you go to Istanbul, there's different libraries there that you can go to. So this is that book. And there's another volume of this which has, I think, the translation and study of it. It's, of course, in French. What is this? This is a facsimile edition also of a very famous royal Quran in the Topkapi Palace Museum in Istanbul. And it was written by, the scribe, someone named Ahmad Qarahisari, who was a master of a style, a reviver of a style called Muhaqqaq, which is now pretty much extinct. So this is related to the Arabic calligraphy style named Thuluth, but it has significant differences. And there are people who, they have worked for the revival of this so-called, this Muhaqqaq style. So this is all Muhaqqaq calligraphy. Then later, in the rest of it, you have alternating panels. You have 1, 2, 3, and the 2 in the middle will be of Thuluth calligraphy. There is a Jordanian calligrapher who's worked on reviving Thuluth, and this is his practice notebook. It's called Amshaq al-Khatt al-Muhaqqaq. What was the guy's name? Should be here. And this is a limited edition. Number 439. Yeah, Nassar Mansour. And he's Jordanian, and my friend Aftab Ahmad got this book for me from Jordan. So here it is. It's beautifully done. It's got an intro in English, Persian, modern Turkish, and Arabic. So this is his attempt to revive Muhaqqaq script, but it was really Ahmad Qarahisari who worked on this. So this is a royal, as I said, a royal Quran. It's absolutely marvelous, and I usually take it out once a year in Ramadan, and of course Ramadan is in a few days, so here it is. It's very, very heavy. I don't know what else to talk about. I think that's...
Well, I think you can talk about why this massive whiteboard is here.
What do you mean? Well, if it's for homeschooling, so yeah, I homeschool the kids.
Is there anything else you want to say about that or no?
What to say?
I just thought it might be interesting.
I think modern education has gone down the drain, so that's why you're homeschooled.
Pretty much.
I suppose we could end with this. So this was my it's a famous Urdu poet, Ghalib, but this is his Persian poetry. He was a lot more. Yeah, he was far more proud of his Persian diwan, and so this is Persian diwan. It's not really much read in modern times. What you have is people reading the Urdu diwan, which, as you can see, is a lot smaller. So yeah, I have assorted works of Urdu poetry here. This is also a rare book, Jaman Benazir. Although it's 1927, this is also published in Lucknow. It's an anthology of Urdu verse, Urdu prose. Urdu poetry. And of course, this is the Bostan of Saadi, published in Iran. Yeah. So we have a very eclectic collection, very widespread, over many, many different topics. I mean, I'm interested in many, many different things, and I read widely and deeply in all of those areas. I suppose if there was some unifying thread or theme, I've always been fascinated by the philosophical and religious systems of mankind, as well as language, because if you really want to understand those, you really have to go deep into language, and you have to read things in the original, and I've learned various languages over the years. So yes, this is just a simple tour of basically what's being used right now in my library. Maybe at some point, I have some other rare books. Maybe I'll do another video on those at some stage. I have a collection of Arabic manuscripts, some rare lithographs, again, from India, from different presses which no longer exist, in both Persian and Urdu and in Arabic. But I think that that is sufficient for now. Thank you.